Hey everyone, welcome back to the second tutorial in our Instagram text animation series. Today we are diving into a popular trending style that has been taking over Instagram. So let's jump into Adobe After Effects and get started. Once you are in Adobe After Effects, go to Composition, New Composition, give your composition a name like Main. Set the resolution to 1920 by 1080, frame rate to 30 fps and duration to 3 to 4 seconds. That is perfect. Then hit OK to confirm the new composition. Let's add our first text using the typing tool. Click anywhere inside the composition to enable typing mode. Then type whatever you like. Once you are done, switch back to the selection tool. In the properties panel, increase the scale value of the text to around 320%. You can also adjust the font, style, and color here to customize your title. To center the text, click Align horizontally and Align vertically. If you don't see any Align or Properties panel, you can enable them from the window menu. This menu includes all the options such as Align, Effects, Preview, and Properties. Now you'll notice the anchor point is on the corner of the text. You need to center it. Make sure the text layer is selected, then go to the anchor point tool in the top bar. Hold down Ctrl and double click on the anchor point tool to center the anchor point of the selected text or object. Once that is done, switch back to the selection tool by pressing V key on your keyboard. To create an opening and ending animation for the text in After Effects, go to your text layer and expand it. Click on the Animate icon and choose Opacity. You'll now see opacity under Animator on. Set its value to 0%. Then the text will disappear from the composition. But we want to create a fade-in animation where the text goes from invisible to visible. To do this, open Range Selector on, then set a keyframe for offset at the first frame with a value of 0%. Move the time indicator to the 1 second mark, then change the offset value to 100%. Now if you preview the timeline, you see the text fading in. By default, the animation applies to characters. To change this, go to Advanced, Based on, and switch it to Lines. Perfect. Now the fade in animates line by line. For the fade out, move the time indicator to around 20 frames before the end of the timeline. Add a keyframe for offset there. Then drag the time indicator to the very end of the timeline and set the offset back to 0%. This adds the final keyframe. Now your text has a clean fade in and fade out opacity animation. Let's enhance this animation by adding a zoom out effect at the beginning. Under Animator on, click on the Add menu and choose Scale. The scale property will be added instantly under the Animator on. Next, move the time indicator to the second offset keyframe and set a keyframe for scale. Then go back to the first frame of the timeline and change the scale value from 100 to 120. Preview the animation. The text now zooms out as it fades in. However, zoom out may not appear smoothly yet. To fix this, expand more options under text layer and change the anchor point grouping from character to line. That's it. Now the text zooms out smoothly while the fade in at the start. Alright, we have finished the beginning animation of the text with scale and opacity. Now let's complete the ending animation. First, click the add icon under Animator on and select blur to add the blur property. Move the time indicator to the third offset keyframe. Then unlink the blur values for horizontal and vertical. After that, set a keyframe for blur right at the position of the time indicator. Next, drag the time indicator to the last frame of the animation and increase the vertical blur value to around 25. This creates the fade out with blur. To make the animation smoother, drag the last blur keyframe slightly to the left so the effect finishes a bit earlier. And that's it. The ending animation with blur and opacity for text on is complete. Animation for this text layer, the first text is done, so now we can make it duplicate by hitting Ctrl+D key at the same time. So this is another text layer where we are gonna make some changes. Start with changing the position, the duplicate or upper text layer. In the properties, decrease the Y value of the position to move the text a little up. Now move the text a little bit to the left by decreasing X position. Decrease the size of the text according to your preference. Once done, double click on the upper or duplicate text to enable typing mode and type something you like. For me, it's going to be the. That means upper text or text on is the and text 2 is after framing. Now let's center the anchor point of the text on. Hold down Ctrl and double click on the pen behind tool. This will place the anchor point in the center of the text. After that, switch back to the selection tool by pressing V key on your keyboard. If needed, you can reposition the text on again. Since text on is a duplicate of text 2, it has the same opening animation, zooming out and fading in. Let's make it a little different by adding a position animation. To do this, expand text on, go to Animator on and choose position. Move the time indicator to the second offset keyframe, then set a position keyframe at that frame. Now move the time indicator about 10 frames before the first frame and slightly decrease the X and Y values to shift the text on toward the upper left corner. Finally, drag this position keyframe to the start of the timeline. And that's it, the opening animation for text on is complete. Now select text layer on and press Ctrl+D to duplicate it. This gives us 3 text layers in the timeline. Let's start with the top text layer. Move the time indicator to the middle of the timeline. Then adjust the position to move the text slightly downward and center it. Now it sits perfectly below text 3, which says after framing. To edit the text, double click on the text on to enable typing mode and type in a word. For example, I'll type tutorials. Once you are done, switch back to the selection tool. Next, center the anchor point of text on by holding Ctrl and double click on the anchor point tool. If needed, adjust the position again. And you can also change the scale to resize the text to your preference. Now preview the animation. You'll notice that the position animation of text on is updating, since it is just a duplicate of the earlier layer D. To fix this, expand text layer on by clicking the arrow next to it. Then open Animator on. Here you see the position property. Drag the first position keyframes a few frames to the right. With the time indicator on that keyframe, preview the text live. Adjust the X and Y values to shift the text slightly toward and bottom right corner. Finally, drag the first keyframe back to the start of the timeline. Now all 3 text layers animate together. They zoom out slowly while fading in, text on and text to move to a text 3 from their respective angles. That completes the opening and closing animation. Now let's move on to the next step. Let's make the text stand out from the background almost like 3D by applying drop shadow effect. You find the drop shadow effect in the effects and presets panel. Once you find it, apply it to any text layer. Next, go to composition settings and change the background color from black to something lighter. This will make it easier to see and adjust the drop shadow effect. After choosing a color, click OK to confirm. Now zoom in on the composition to get a closer look at the text. In the effect controls panel, adjust the drop shadow settings as follows. Opacity around 65%, direction about 50 degrees, softness set to 8 or 9. At this point, the text looks much better with a subtle 3D depth. We can now apply the same drop shadow effect to the other text layers. To do this, select the drop shadow effect you just created, then go to Edit, copy the property links. In the timeline, select the remaining text layers and press Ctrl+V to paste. The Copy the property links option copies the effect settings and links them with expressions. This way, any adjustments you make to the drop shadow on the first text layer will automatically update across the others. If you look closely, you will notice that D sits above after framing, which doesn't look good with the shadow. To fix this, simply drag the text 2 below the text 3 in the timeline. Now the layout looks perfect. Our final timeline order is tutorials top layer, after framing middle layer, D bottom layer. That completes the animation from the individual text layers. Now let's move on to the next step. Now we are gonna pre-compose all layers. First, select every text layer in the timeline, then right-click any of the selected layers and choose pre-compose. Name the pre-compose something like layers, then hit OK to confirm. Next, move the time indicator to the point where the opening animation ends. Press P on your keyboard to reveal the position property. This will let us create an animation similar to Instagram trending text animation style. To make the adjustments easier, click on the grade icon to enable proportional grade. Now set fast keyframes for position by clicking the stopwatch. Adjust the X and Y values to move the text slightly left and down. Drag the time indicator to the frame where the ending animation to begin. At this point, move the text a little bit to the right and slightly upward. And that's it. We now have a smooth motion where the text drafts from the bottom left to the top right. Finally, drag the first keyframes to the start of the timeline and second keyframe to the end. Our Instagram style second trending text animation is complete. If you would like, you can download the project file on Patreon. And if you wanna learn how to export motion graphics templates like this one, check out my tutorial Export Motion Graphics Template from After Effects to Premiere Pro. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video.